Hey, what's going on, guys? Late Bloomer here, coming at you with my late review for Stellar Blade. So, let's talk about the controversy first. Okay, so the controversy was that there wasn't supposed to be any censorship going on, right? They had announced, Shift Up had announced that originally they weren't going to do any kind of censorship. What they made is what we were going to get. And then day one hit, and there was a patch, and there was some outfits that got censored. And then there was this big hoopla for like a week, 2 weeks. I mean, some people are still talking about it, right? Um, and for a while, I was a little bit annoyed about it as well. But then I started thinking about it, and I started playing the game honestly, and I kind of got to a point where I was like, you know what? There's a lot of outfits that I'm sorry, like if they censored, they didn't censor well enough. They definitely were on the revealing side, and so like the ones I started looking at that were censored, I mean, I can see how people would be upset that they were censored, but at the same time, it was like, man, there is just so much cake going on in this game, so much cleavage going on in this game. Like if you're mad about the fact that they censored what they censored, then I don't know, man. Like I'm not trying to call you a perv, but I don't know, you might just be a perv, bro. And that's fine. Like that's why that's half the appeal of the game for you, obviously. And it, I mean, granted, I like seeing a good-looking woman on when I'm playing a game. I like having a good-looking protagonist. Definitely believe that Asia does a better job of making their characters than we do over here in the West, for sure. So I appreciate that. But at the same time, like I'm in it for the story. I'm in it for the game. Like the good looking characters, that's just the cherry on the top for me. The good looking outfits are like the frosting, you know? But what I care about it when it really comes down to it is the gameplay and the story. And even the music. Like everything that goes into the game, like that's what really makes the game for me. So it really got to a point where I just didn't really care that much about it being censored. Like the only reason why I would be upset about the censorship is it sets a really bad precedent for games in the future. Because essentially, if game companies can just start censoring everything, then essentially they're telling us, that they have full control, which in a lot of ways they already do have a lot of control. But it basically just takes all the control away from the gamer. And to be fair, if you're gonna rate a game mature, then the people that are buying the game are mature. So we should be able to have the game made with the intent that it was made in. And I think that the fact that they started censoring it, I guess for whatever reason, for whoever was complaining, like I feel like those people just need to get over it and need to get a life, because in reality there are plenty of other things they should be getting upset about. I mean, let's not talk about the hypocrisy of Baldur's Gate 3 and Last of Us 2 and the non-censorship that was happening in those games. It just seems like as long as it's a Western game company or design company that's coming up with game, for some reason it seems to be okay. But the moment it's a Eastern company or an Asian company making a game, they want to censor it. So I think that is hypocritical. So in that respect, I will completely agree with people being outraged with the censorship. If you're just complaining because there isn't as much cleavage or as much cake to be seen, then I'm sorry, man. Then that's something you just need to look inward about, because that's a whole nother issue that has nothing to do with censorship. That just has to do with you being a perv. Sorry, and I'm not gonna act like I don't have my moments. You know what I'm saying? But if that's why you're coming to the game, there are plenty of other games out there for you, for sure. And then if it does come to PC like they're talking about, then you get to mod it to your heart's content, and then you can do all sorts of crazy stuff with it. Anyhow, so we're gonna move off the censorship because I don't wanna go like, you know, balls deep into censorship. Let's get into actually why the game is really good. So the gameplay, come on. I mean, it's like a mix between Sekiro, Nier Automata. Like, I mean, that's what everyone's comparing it to, is Nier Automata. right? And the game designers, they talked, when it came to it, the directors, they talked about it. They they got inspiration off of each other, or one got inspiration from the other, and now the other one's saying, hey man, like, I got inspiration from you and I'm more excited when I make my next game. So I think it's really amazing that they were able to look at each other and have respect for each other's games. Obviously they're both post-apocalyptic, they both have androids, they both have a robot sidekick. It's essentially like they're kind of like cousin games to each other, and they're really good games, both of them. I love Stellar Blade for what it is. I think that the combat is fantastic. I think it's an amazing, amazing, amazing game. I believe, honestly, the story is stronger than most people are giving it credit for. I think that if you don't 100% the game, or at least like go after the data um, memories and all that other stuff like that, you're missing out on a huge chunk of the story, because the data chips and the side quests, they are what fill the story. They are what fill what's going on in that world. And the more you put into that game, the more you're going to get out of that game, out of this game. You will understand what has happened, why things are happening, and that's where the story is. And if you don't play any of that, then yeah, the story feels empty. It doesn't feel like that great of a story, but it's a fantastic story. And I love the story a lot. I definitely wish that Eve had more personality, more of a character. But to be fair, she's not a human. She's an android, and you find that out later on down the line. And to be fair, you're expecting something out of a character that doesn't have emotions, and this is the reason why Adam, kind of set her off on her path to help her, kind of like understand what humanity is, and that's the underlining message of this story is, what is it to be human? Same thing with Nier Automata. And so it's kind of like, if you don't understand what the story is, and if you don't like actually explore and actually do the things in the story, like the story quests and picking up all the memories, and picking up like books, and like talking to to NPCs, you just don't really understand. And then it can feel like a very empty game with just like cake and cleavage and really good music. So let's talk about the music. The music is probably one of, if not the strongest components of this game. The music slaps. I mean, I could listen to the music all day long, whether I'm playing the game or not. Now, granted, I love music, but this music is just absolutely incredible. Like, every single theme goes hard. It's perfect. It embellishes everything that's going on in the game. And I really appreciate what they did with it. They've talked about how they're not going to make a sequel. That just came out a couple days ago, that they're not going to be making a sequel. They're going to be moving on to a new project. That's a little bit disappointing. I feel like they left room for a sequel. I wonder how much of them deciding to move on had to do with all the controversy that came from them censoring or not censoring. Maybe they felt like it was too much of a hassle to deal with again, and they just want to go on to something else. Or maybe they just said, hey man, this is our vision, this is our story, we had nothing else for this story, and we want to move on. And that's fair, because they have every right to move on if they want to move on. I personally would love to have a second game where she actually went after Mother Sphere, but hey man, I'm not in control of that kind of stuff. I can tell you this, man. If I had made a game and all people were talking about for the first 2 weeks of the game was that, that I did something that they didn't like, and they weren't even talking about the game, and they weren't talking about the gameplay, and they weren't talking about all the other things that we put into the game, I might second guess making another game in that light. Because honestly, I don't want to make games for people that are just going to completely complain about, like, really the silliest thing. Like, literally, if you go and play that game and you get the bodysuits, most of those suits are like very revealing. The fact that we talked about this for 2 weeks, like, it wasn't about the fact that censorship for censorship's sake. Like, everyone was talking about the stupid bodysuits. Like, come on, man. Like, you can't miss the reason why we're actually mad about the censorship. The censorship is the problem because ultimately we should have a right to play the kind of game that we want to play, right? As adults, we're not children. We should want to play the game that we want to play, and that's fine. If you want to argue that reason of censorship for censorship's sake, then I'm obviously with you. But man, all I ever heard was, oh, like they changed this bodysuit. Oh, they changed this bodysuit. We want a repatch so we can get the bodysuits that we were promised. Come on, man. Play the game, man. Play the game. There's like 40 something bodysuits in there, or 70 something bodysuits. I don't know how many there are. And most of them are revealing. Most of them are super revealing. I don't know how revealing you needed to get. Seriously. Like, why are you playing the game? Like, are you playing the game just to look at cake and cleavage? Or are you playing the game to play the game? Like, you can have your cake and eat it too, but come on, man. Like, it hits a certain point. Anyhow, man. I honestly, if I had to give the game a rating, it would be a 9 out of 10. The only reason why I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10 is because, one, the censorship. Second, I feel like there were some mechanics in the game that, man, they were just they needed to like recalibrate on some things. Like, I don't know how many times I died platforming, and it wasn't because it was because it was oversensitive. Like, I would jump. So like when you get to the orbit elevator, and when you're on the elevator before, like, not like the final elevator, but when you're like going up and it crashes and you have to go onto the outside, like before you get to that place where like the cannons are trying to shoot at you, that rope that you have to jump to go down, I died trying to jump to that rope at least 5 times. I'm jumping towards the rope. It's right in front of me. I'm not double jumping. I'm not doing anything. And I missed that rope like 4 times because I didn't hit it perfectly. Like, I just feel like they just they calibrated that game so like you had to be so precise with everything that you did platforming wise. And like, I mean, I don't know how many, I think I died a few times even on the sidewalls because like I just didn't touch it right. And God knows, don't double jump. Like, cause like if you think you miss it and then you do try to jump to like correct, you're dying. Like, you're gonna die. You're dead. Absolutely dead. And so like there was times where I just, man, like it just felt like the sensitivity was too much. But I didn't want to like mess around with the sensitivity either, because like honestly, if that's how you made the game, that's how you made the game. And so I'm not trying. I'm gonna take what you give me when it comes to the game. So honestly, like that would be the reason I would take away from it, is because some of that stuff needed to be recalibrated. I appreciate the game was sensitive. Like, I don't want a Dark Souls where like everything's sluggish and like I have almost no movement. But there were times where like there were times I almost died just because of the sensitivity of Eve, just like on platforms or anything. It was crazy to me. But honestly, like I said, gameplay solid, music solid, story was solid. The characters, I feel like they were a little bit bland. But to be fair, like when you find out that they're androids, kind of makes sense. But it does kind of suck that every one of those characters was an android except one of them, which is weird because the one that wasn't an android felt like the most lifeless one. So Adam is the original scientist that created Mother Sphere and also created the Manitibas in response to Mother Sphere creating Android Eidos, destroying humans. Why does he feel like the most lifeless character of all of them? He is like basically the only remaining human left, true human left, and he had the most lifeless personality. And it kind of sucked, man. I kind of wish that someone had more emotion. I feel like Lily had the most emotion, and she's an android, so it was just super weird. I feel like they could have done a little bit better with their characters, as far as like their personality and them having more life and more expression. But hey, man, like the guy said that he wasn't super strong at making characters and making story, which I think is kind of weird because I thought it was a really good story. Honestly, I think that it actually fleshed out pretty well. Anyhow, that's my review. If you liked it, leave a like and a comment. Subscribe. Till next time, peace out, YouTube.